did. You crazy son of a bitch, you did.
Oh, did they ever? It's time to review Audiolab's all-new 7000A integrated amplifier. You already know that I am a big fan of Audiolab. Ever since the 6000A played, not only have I grown to love their products, but we have relied very heavily on them as part of our reference fleet. The 7000A falls in between the entry 6000 series and their flagship 9000. Before you ask, what about the 8000 series? The 7000, at least to me, it's looking a bit like its replacement, at least until maybe the 8000 series gets an update of its own. The 7000A is a Class AB stereo integrated amplifier that produces 70 watts per channel into 8 ohms and 110 watts into 4. Like all of Audiolab's integrated amps, it can be configured in one of 3 ways: as a full integrated amplifier, a preamp which disables the built-in amplifiers, or as a standalone amplifier, making it a very flexible long-term solution. Like both the 6000 and 9000A, the 7000 has a built-in DAC, but the 7000 utilizes an ES9038 Q2M chipset, which is an upgrade over the 6000, but not quite equal to the ESS Pro DACs inside the 9000. Still, the 7000A offers a ton of digital connectivity, as optical, coaxial, USB, and wait for it, HDMI with ARC, aka Audio Return Channel. Yes, after years of pleading with brands, Audiolab has given the 7000A an HDMI input, enabling it to be easily connected and controlled via an HDMI cable and CEC. Not to be overlooked, though, is the presence of multiple analog inputs, which includes a pretty solid phono preamp. There's also a single pair of preamp outs for use with either a subwoofer or third-party amp should you discover you need more power down the road. Throw in Bluetooth with aptX support, as well as full MQA decoding, high-res audio support, some room compatibility, and a built-in headphone amplifier with a 1/4-inch jack, and you have the new 7000A pretty much summed up. Now, with the exception of the new 3-inch color LCD screen, the 7000A is nearly indistinguishable from our older 6000A Play. Gone is the 6000's calculator-like display, replaced instead with a screen that is a partial carryover from the 9000A and Audiolab Omnia. The screen isn't as big or as bright as the 9000A, but all of the same menus and functionality are present, as are the digital VU meters, though they don't appear to function, aka move, when the 7000A is in its preamp mode, feeding a separate amplifier, which is weird. Still, the screen is a welcomed addition and is easy enough to read from several feet, allowing adjustment of the amp's DAC and its filters at your listening chair. Sadly, the 7000A, like all Audiolab products I'm familiar with, still lacks tone controls. You get balance, but you don't get tone controls. Since receiving the Audiolab, we have had the chance to pair it with a wide range of loudspeakers. It has been able to drive every single speaker we've paired with it. So rather than list them all, I'll just share my favorite pairings, which include the Martin Logan Motion XT F100, DefTech DM80s, the Klipsch 8000F Mark II, as well as the Heresy and Cornwall 4s, and the Polk R700. I have no issue recommending any of these pairings, and when it comes to costlier heritage speakers from Klipsch, the 7000A was silent at idle, making it a great match for high-efficiency speakers. If you're wondering if your speakers will work with the 7000A, as long as they are 4 ohms or higher and have a sensitivity of 84 dB or so, I think you're going to be just fine. Given that the 7000A has an HDMI input, we paired it with our 98-inch TCL TV and Apple TV 4K, as well as Cambridge Audio's new AXN10 streamer and their Alva TTV2 turntable, which I use both wired and wirelessly. Now, being able to use the 7000A in so many different ways was a real treat. It is one of the big selling points when it comes to using Audiolab products. While the remote may be a carryover, the ability to easily and seamlessly control power as well as volume with our existing Apple TV remote made the included remote more or less irrelevant. But enough about all of that. Let's talk about sound quality. The 7000 fits perfectly between the 6000 and the 9000 series. Like all Audiolab products, the overall tone of the amp is neutral, with solid control down low and a polite but not too rolled off top end. The 7000A, like the 6000A and 9000A, is an amplifier that I can listen to for hours, no matter the genre of music, and I never have to really give it or the rest of my system a second thought, which is a very, very good thing. Even slightly more demanding speakers, like our Martin Logans or the Pulse, sounded their very best when connected to the 7000A. Its control over the F100's triple woofers, as well as the R700's dual 8-inch drivers, was solid. Tracks like Eternity from Enema or Cat Leon's cover of Silent All These Years were dished out with terrific weight, focus, and control at all volumes. Using the costlier 9000A will give you a little more texture, nuance, and greater separation from the rest of the recorded music when listening to the same tracks, but still, 7000A really holds its own. The mid-range feels cleaner, more dimensional, and resolving when compared to the 6000A Play, and, at least for me, it's every bit the 9000A's mid-range equal. Using the 7000A's HDMI connection makes watching movies in stereo or 2.1 super easy and a lot of fun. And dialogue? Clear at all volumes. Now, when it comes to the treble, I am a big fan of Audiolab's sound because I get all of the high frequency detail, texture, and air that I could possibly want, but it never treads into aggressive territory when paired with speakers that have, say, a reputation for being a little bit brighter. It's not as if the 7000A is soft or rolled off. It's not. It just doesn't have a great deal of extra noise or distortion for brighter tweeters to accentuate, which is a plus. The 7000A is better than the 6000A Play in this regard, but it plays second fiddle to the 9000A, which is even more detailed and airy. The 7000A's overall presentation is pretty spacious, enabling speakers that are capable of boundary-defying stages to absolutely shine. Detail and separation is pretty terrific, though in a direct head-to-head with the 9000A, it's rather easy to hear how better layered and kind of pulled apart certain tracks like Fiona Apple's Shadowboxer or Lady Blackbird's Fool Out of You really are. Still, for a sub $2,000 integrated with a built-in DAC and the power to drive lower impedance speakers, 7000A's SOUNDSTAGE ranks among the best. I feel exactly the same way about its dynamics, better than the 6000A Play, but not quite as refined or as three-dimensional as the 9000. What impresses me the most about Audiolab, specifically the 7000A here, is just how much more powerful it sounds and feels than the specs would lead you to believe. Audiolab's continued reluctance to give users basic features like tone controls or offering maybe another set of preamp outs so you can use a subwoofer and a third-party amp at the same time is still a head-scratcher, and it may be the thing that keeps some of you away. Now, this being Audiolab's first go at HDMI with ARC support, I have to say I am impressed. It worked flawlessly in our tests, though it is a little slow to respond to CEC commands like volume from third-party remotes like our Apple TV. Now, Audiolab has issued a firmware update to address this, as well as other CEC issues, and things have improved, but I think another update is in order to make it a perfect 10 out of 10. I'm not saying this to scare you away from the 7000A, just setting expectations should you get one and discover just a little bit of lag here and there. As for comparisons, starting with the two biggest ones, how does the 7000A compare to the costlier 9000A, and should existing 6000A or 6000A Play customers upgrade? As I've said throughout this review, yeah, you're probably going to want to go back and to the beginning and make sure you didn't miss anything. The 7000 fits right in the middle. If sonics are all that matter to you, and to hell with features, connectivity, and convenience, the 9000A is the better overall amplifier and is still one of my favorite integrated amps at its $3,000 asking price. This means the 6000A Play is getting retired in favor of the 7000A. And no, the presence of Play-Fi in the 6000A Play wasn't enough to win me over, because I actually prefer the Cambridge Audio AXN10's streaming capability to that of Play-Fi. The 6000A Play, it's still a great product. The 7000A is better. Other notable comparisons include Yamaha's brand new RN2000A. Like the 7000A, the Yamaha has an HDMI input, but it also adds room correction as well as tone controls and those sexy ass meters, which we all know makes everything sound better. The 2000A is phenomenal. It is. I love it. But at more than double the cost, there's no denying the Audiolab's value. When directly compared, the 7000A isn't embarrassed. The 2000A and the 9000A have a very similar vibe because both amps focus on getting at the recording's finer details in ways few amps this side of five figures can manage. But for less than $2,000, 7000A is more than competitive, and it is likely what I would buy for myself, all things considered. For me, Audiolab's new 7000A integrated amplifier is pretty much the ideal modern all-in-one. It looks great, it's built to a high standard, sounds brilliant across all genres of music and now movies, and it just works. I mean, what more do you really need? So that's it. That's now my take on Audiolab's brand new 7000A integrated amplifier, but the moment you've all been waiting for really is, what does Kristi think of it?
Yeah, because you know they just skipped to my part.
They just, yeah, I don't even need to be here.
That's not true. Oh, gosh. I'm with you all the way. I love Audiolab products. Mm-hmm. And as much as I love the 9000A, it just makes more sense for how we live to go with the 7000A.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I really think that they made a mistake by not giving the 9000A HDMI, considering that these two products have been released so closely together.
Yeah.
Unless, I mean, the only thing I can imagine is if they were thinking, well, the 9000 is just going to go after these like audiophile purists or something.
I have a feeling the 9000A was in development a little bit longer than the 7000. I also think that for that exact reason, they were kind of going a little bit more after the hardcore 2-channel, call it analog and digital audiophile that is still got their head in the sand going, HDMI. Remember, there was a time where some of you were like, you don't need optical on an integrated. You don't need coaxial. You know, analog's fine. And now, if there was an integrated amp that didn't have that, if you were shopping for an integrated amp that had a built-in DAC and it didn't give you optical, you'd have pitchforks. You'd be like, what are they thinking? You know? And so, yeah, it's funny to me how there's such this sort of blowback against HDMI when it's like, roll the tape back about 10 years and y'all were saying the same thing when integrated start including, you know, optical and coaxial, and now you wouldn't even dream of them not having it, let alone, oh, they didn't give me enough, you know? So
yeah, I mean,
we're a year or two away from people going like, can't believe they didn't give me HDMI.
Oh, I know. I mean, being anti-technology advancements, it just doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense. And honestly, if you don't want to use it, don't use it. But to pretend that you don't need it, I mean, I'm sorry. There's this argument that doesn't, it's not even just Audiolab or 2-channel. It exists in home theater. Like, you don't need 2.1. Shut up. People use it. I'm living proof. I need 2.1 or I need HDMI in my 2-channel components. Can I get away without it? Sure. But if you're going to give me the option, give it to me. We're all going to be better for it. Rant over. Sorry. Thank you, Audiolab, for paying attention and for bringing to market a truly full-featured integrated with HDMI. That's all I'm going to say. And it's only like $100 more than the MSRP of the 6000A Play at full price. I know you can get the stuff on sale, blah, blah, blah. But they didn't charge you a premium for this extra functionality, which is just so classy.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah.
I totally agree. Now, there's going to be a lot of people, but they don't have tone controls.
You know what? They don't. And we knock them. They deserve to be knocked. They deserve to be a little spank on the bottom for that. But something that occurred to me, and I haven't fully tested this yet because it occurred to me very late. In the amplifier's preamp power amp mode, remember, you can go full integrated, pure preamp, or pre-power. In the pre-power mode, I believe that you can stick an EQ or a mini DSP with parametric EQ and or DIRAC from the preamp outs into a mini DSP back into the power amp inputs, and everything should still work, which would give you a room correction solution to a sub $2,000 integrated with HDMI. All in, probably bringing the cost of this unit up to around $2,000, $2,100. I'm going to come back and make a comment on whether or not this works. It should work. In theory, it should work. And if that's the case, Wow.
Now, you did leave off a few comparisons I think people are going to want to hear about.
All right.
Yeah. Here we go. NAD. Now, they have the C399.
Yeah.
I personally, I find their NAD just a little bit sterile.
Yeah.
So I personally would go with Audiolab, but again, here's your chance to weigh in.
You know, there's no doubt in my mind. The NAD 399 is an insane value. And like Kristi said, if you are into ruthless neutrality, get it. And yes, it is a Class D or hybrid, whatever NAD's hybrid amp topology is at the moment. So it is more powerful. It will likely have even greater control potentially over difficult to drive loudspeakers. Now, I would not option the 399 without BlueOS and, you know, room correction and all of that, because that's kind of the promise of the unit itself. And so it is more expensive. And if it turns out that I am correct about adding mini DSP to the 7000A, you can still get a 7000A and DIRAC with mini DSP capability for less than what the C399 costs. So I still think that that might be a little bit of a Frankenstein solution, but still a better one.
Now, the Marantz 40N, which I'm shocked you didn't even mention. What happened?
I don't know. That's a brain fart.
I could honestly be happy with either, but I do want to know what you think.
The Marantz is going to have a slightly kind of warmer, I don't want to use the word warmer, but it's going to have a little bit of a rounder or softer kind of sound. The precision of the mid bass or bass notes isn't quite as grippy as the Audiolab. The 9000A takes it even further, but 7000 to 40N. If our loan period with the 40N is up, thank you, Marantz, for extending it to us for a full year. So we don't have it anymore. If I had purchased it, I would feel no reason, and I see no reason to replace it for the 7000A. Let me make that abundantly clear. In terms of functionality, feature set, blah, 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 they are very comparable, and so I would not swap one out for the other. If I was on the market for a fresh purchase and knowing that these two are very evenly matched, I would buy the 7000A. Nothing against the Marantz. I would just buy the 7000A if for no other reason than I'm going to save $700 in doing so.
Good answer. Okay, so last comparison question.
Okay, all right.
Maybe the most budget friendliest option.
Okay.
How do you compare the BLUESOUND power node
Ooh.
with the Audiolab? Now, as just a reminder, the power node is about $950.
Yeah.
It has HDMI and Bluetooth.
Yeah.
So
Has HDMI, has BlueOS, which is a great streaming platform. It's powerful enough at around 100 watts, I think. It is a Class D hybrid situation. So those of you that are like, I like Class AB, like my girl here, you know, you may find that the sonic characteristics of the of the power node are maybe on the more just kind of sterile side. At under $1,000, the power node, going on probably 3 or 4 years now, is unmatched in just what it does value for money wise and style department wise. It's great. I still kind of just prefer a little bit of the old school vibe, you know, physically, design wise, industrial design wise, of the 7000A. And I do like the greater flexibility. I like having more analog inputs. The phono preamp inside the 7000A is phenomenal. So yeah, if you could stretch your budget, $600, $700, 7000A is what I would choose. But if you're like, man, I can't go a penny above $1,000, go get the power node and never look back.
I agree. I do prefer the Audiolab because, like you said, I do like a Class AB amp. But if I had a lower budget, I would get the power node. I think it's a great solution.
Still is awesome.
Out of the options that you can get as far as amps that use the Class D configuration, I think it's one of the better sounding Class D amplifiers.
Yeah.
What would you do as far as, would you choose a home theater receiver or would you go with the Audiolab?
If it were me and I didn't have a channel, I didn't have in ceilings installed and all of that stuff, I can be very happy with a 2.1 system, in which case something like the 7000A is all that I really personally require. That said, it does pain me some days to realize that I have a 5.1.2 or 7.1.2 system in this house ready, rigged up, and I'm not using it. Oh man, this is better for stereo for me, the purist side of me. But given all of the features that a lot of receivers have, specifically take for instance like the Anthem 740, which we just reviewed, that is so good. It is so good that given the additional things that it can do that the Audiolab can never do, at, I think on sale it's like $2,600. I would probably get the Anthem. But at like full price, Anthem, $3,100, $3,200, I'd save my money and get the Audiolab, especially if I knew I was never really that interested in branching out and having multiple channels. That isn't true of all receivers. We know this. Cinema 50, another great receiver that has great two-channel performance. Sony 7000 ES, great two-channel performance. But there are a number of receivers that I don't really care for two-channel, despite being able to do it. So yeah, it just, if you know you're never going to do surround sound or Atmos or anything like that, get something like the 7000A and be happy. But if you're like, no, I'm more 80-20, 80% home theater, skip the 7000A, get yourself a receiver.
Okay. I would probably go with a home theater receiver. Like you mentioned, the Anthem and the Sony options are really, really good for stereo listening. The people that say, oh, you can't enjoy stereo music with a receiver, I don't know what it is you're listening to. I just find that absolutely absurd.
The sad truth is they're probably not listening to any of it. They're just parroting what has been, say, the talking point for 20 years. They're not actually bringing one of these devices home and doing the Pepsi challenge. And that's what's unfortunate, is there are so many people that are influencing this particular discussion away from practical solutions that are going to benefit people, i.e. receivers. Because 30 years ago, you couldn't get stereotype quality high-end or hi-fi stereo performance from a receiver, but that's just not the case anymore.
Anyway, I think we're done.
We're done? All right,
ready
guys.
for bagels.
All right, guys, that is now our review of Audiolab's fabulous 7000A integrated amplifier. What did you guys think? We've been teasing this for a while. I appreciate your patience. I hope it was worth it. That's my question of the day.
Of course it was.
That's the question of the day. What do you guys think about this product? Is this the new budget do-it-all integrated to beat? I really, really want to know, because I've been just very happy with it.
The answer is yes.
Very happy with it. Anyway, if you like this video, please do give it a thumbs up, like, and subscribe. Go ahead and ring that bell so that you're notified when new videos come out. If you use any of the links that Kristi left for you down below, know that that is a great way that you have continued to show your support for this channel and the work that we do here. And both of us thank you all so very, very much for doing that. Follow me on Instagram at Recovering Audiophile. That's it for us today. So remember, the only person who has to like the sound of your system is you. So happy listening, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. See you on the next video. Bye.